Hey guys, Britzza here with episode 90 of Geeks of Azeroth. Wow, it's crazy to think we've got to 90 episodes and not long to go to 100. We're getting there, but we're deciding to do something a little bit different. Different in so much that it's a segmented show. We've done this before, but unfortunately the circumstances have meant that not everyone's available to do the live show. So we're doing something a little bit different in response to some news that came out from Blizzard. For those of you who don't know, Chris Metzen, creative director at Blizzard, and guy who, a man who was really at the heart of all of their games and the whole company and the community, perhaps most importantly, announced his intention to retire. So he's stepping away from the company, and he announced that his reasons largely to do that were family. So that came out a few days ago, and we wanted to do a slightly different segmented show in that we want to do some short tributes. So Zool and Tarley have put together some short extracts. Voodoo unfortunately couldn't get the time to record something and get it over to us, which is fully understandable. And I'm recording mine now. So, and I've not really listened to this. So if there are some repeats, apologies. I didn't want to listen and sort of have it influence what I was going to say. So Chris, and you want to call him Chris because I think so many people really do connect with this guy. And I always find it funny in these situations when someone gets this response from a community and that so many people know him and probably feel quite personally attached to them, yet he doesn't know I exist. It's one of those situations where it's almost one way. I know it's not, but again, you see what I mean. And this isn't scripted, by the way, so don't apologies if it seems a bit waffly, but I'll try and keep it short like the other guys. So, first and foremost, Chris Metzen, again, lost for words. Such an inspiration to the geek community is an understatement. He has energized this community for longer than I've been in it. Even though I've played WoW for almost 10 years, I haven't really been in the Blizzard community for more than a couple of those years. Maybe a year before I started doing this. So he wasn't really someone I knew, but just from the early BlizzCons that I got involved in, he's the guy who took the stage. He's the guy who energized the crowd. There was a reason they put him up there because he is just the poster boy for geekdom in any community, let alone the Blizzard community. And I'm not going to lie, I think in some ways there's a small part of me that found that quite intimidating. A total comment on me, not on him, in so much that you look at him and you think, wow, look at that passion, look at that drive and that creativity. How do I measure up to that? And I know that's not what you're supposed to do, but still, I think in some ways he inspired me, but also in some ways made me realize just how more passionate I could be about some games. And I think that's that sort of character drives me in what we kind of do here. So say he's an inspiration is an understatement because I think he's an inspiration in ways that people don't understand and in ways that I can't understand. I think he drives certainly me and a lot of the community in a way that we can't really grasp. He's there, and I'm not going to pretend I know him as well as other fans do. Some fans have been known him since the beginning. I haven't. I've only known him for a few years, and I'm not going to pretend I know him that well. Because I don't really. I haven't followed him personally that closely, perhaps as much as a Blizzard fan would or should have. But one thing I can say is that in terms of his presence, he was there, and what I mean by that, and why I think that's so important for me to focus on is that this community has changed so much, and people have changed friends. They've created friends. So many stories of people meeting friends, loved ones, wives, husbands, your partners in any capacity or relationship through this community. But it does change, and I think for me it's changed. I've gone in and out of guilds. Friends have circled through it. I've had people join the game when I was starting out, and I've had people drop off, and it kind of it shifts around. But he's been there for certainly the years that I've been in the Blizzard community as a sort of a North Star or a sort of focal point. And that's kind of reassuring because, Blizzard changes. We've seen Blizzard directors leave, and I know this Metzen is, but I think up until this point, despite all the change in Blizzard, despite all the change in the community and perhaps even the concern, let's be honest, the concern around the games and where they were going, particularly, WoW, he was there. And we knew that while he was there, it was going to be good. And I think that's what got people excited for Overwatch when he came out and announced it. I think as many people cheered for it because it was Metzen being Metzen on stage. And I think that says a lot about who he was and how important he was to this community. And more importantly, perhaps a friend to more people than he'll ever get to know. I know he says that in his posts, that he those people he's never met, that he loves them more than anything. I totally believe that. And again, it's funny how you get those sort of relationships with the online community. But in terms of him leaving for family, you couldn't respect a man more for that, really. We all, I think, wish perhaps in some respects we could spend more time with family and friends when we're not working and when we're certainly in higher stressful environments. He makes that apparent in his post that working at Blizzard wasn't always easy. Trying to get creative decisions made was tough, and in a lot of other jobs, perhaps almost all jobs, that is the case. And I bet we all wish we could spend more time with family rather than going through those stressful situations sometimes. So as someone who wants to spend time with his family, I totally get that personally, and I don't think any person could ever not agree with that decision. He's not leaving a community. He is leaving it in very safe hands, and he's joining it, I think, in many respects, really joining it. He wants to be a fan rather than the guy driving it, and I think that's something we should be excited for, because he's going to be there with us in the crowds, as just not there on stage. So that's the only thing that's changing. And I think, just to end, because I want to keep this short, the statue that they're making, that Blizzard are making for him, I think really sums up the legacy he's going to leave. For those of you who haven't seen it, it's a picture of him with baby Winston pointing up at the stars. I think reminiscent of that scene from the short clip or his intro movie, whatever you want to call it. I think that is his legacy, that he has set the direction for Blizzard. He's not only a star in himself, something that's guiding a lot of us. Me personally as a geek, a casual geek in the making, but also I think for the company, he is an example to his colleagues about how to energize this community, how to get the most out of it, and how to empower it to help make Blizzard the most successful company it can be for gamers. I'm not talking as a business, I'm talking as a gaming community. And I think he has pointed and set that direction perfectly. So I'm going to hand over now to Tarley and Zool, because I think they've certainly got a lot more, probably better points to make than I have. And they've probably known him. I think they definitely have a better understanding of him as a person than I do. So I'll pass over to him, over to them, if I can get my words right, and then close the show.
Hello everyone, Tarley here. I'll keep mine short and sweet. So when I first heard Chris Metzen was retiring, this honestly made me really sad. Over the show I've talked about Chris Metzen all the time. He has always been, to me, like the face of Blizzard Entertainment. Whenever I think of like the head of Blizzard, I know it's Mike Morhaime, but to me, I just always think Chris Metzen. Chris Metzen has always been just that very outspoken, very like one of us geeky, nerdy guys who's just super passionate about these worlds that we play in. And knowing that he is like the father of all of these stories as well, of Warcraft and StarCraft, Diablo and Overwatch, like these are his stories. He is like in charge of all this writing. It's all his creativity. I mean, I know there's hundreds and hundreds of artists who have worked on these stories over the years, but Chris Metzen's been at the head of it all, and he's voiced Green Jesus. So knowing that he's leaving, it definitely made me sad, and it made me think, where are all of these stories that we love? Where are they going to go? But, you see Legion and you see the way that he left it. I mean, spoilers if you haven't played some of this content, but like when he hands over his artifact, the Doomhammer, to Enhancement Shamans, he says he's going to, Thrall says he's giving up his role to spend time with his family, and that's exactly what Chris Metzen said in his letter announcing his retirement, that he's giving up his role to spend time with his family. So that's so awesome. And knowing that he is going to come back and play Thrall whenever needed, that is really, really cool as well. We can see that that Blizzard is opening new paths for stuff to happen, and this is almost a perfect time for Chris Metzen to step away. I mean, he made Overwatch and he set Overwatch in the course that it's going. It's all his story, his creativity, and it's left with Jeff Kaplan, who's an amazing director of that. World of Warcraft is still in the hands of an amazing team. Really, we've just seen Chris Metzen be kind of an overhead role for the last few years, and now it's just going to be interesting to see where these stories go. And I think it could be good, it could be bad, but really, I mean, Blizzard's got all the good stuff there to make really great things once he is gone. So, but really, Chris Metzen, I don't know if you listen to our show or not, but if you do, thank you so much. I mean, it's going to sound really cheesy, but I mean, these games have literally changed my life. These stories have been such a huge part of my life, and that couldn't have been anything without Chris Metzen. So thank you so much for what you've done, the worlds you've created, and it's awesome that you're going to be experiencing them now with us as a true fan. Thank you.
Greetings, geeks. Zool here. As Britzza said, we're all kind of recording our own thoughts on Chris Metzen and him leaving. And it's very bittersweet, because on the one hand, I am so happy for him to be able to retire like he is and just focus on his family and spend time with them. I think that's awesome, and it is so good for him. It makes me so happy. But on the other hand, he's done so much and been such an impact on all of us, I'd say. I mean, I've been experiencing the various worlds that Blizzard has created since the first Warcraft game came out. I remember the friend who introduced it to me. It was his older brothers, and I went over and he showed me this game, Warcraft, and it was just awesome. We played it like crazy. And of course, eventually then I got Warcraft and Warcraft 2, and I played tons of those. I played Diablo, I got StarCraft, I played that, I got Diablo 2. RTSs have never really been my thing, and I realized that, so I never really played Warcraft 3 much until recently, actually. Well, recently as in the last few years. But yeah, so these worlds they've been a part of my life for a long time now, since the beginning, since Warcraft, the first one, for most of my life. And of course, Chris Metzen and his storytelling is all over that. He's been there. He's been doing everything. I've seen his name around. I've known it. And then, of course, I haven't been to a BlizzCon, but I've seen them, and I've watched his presentations. And I mean, everyone says it, but it's so true. The passion he has for these stories and his love for the characters, it shows so clearly when he talks about them. And that makes me love them even more, because I see how precious they are to someone, and I appreciate that. I really appreciate the amount of hard work he's put in, and he's poured his heart and soul into this, and it comes through. It's amazing. And we all know the storytelling isn't perfect in Blizzard stuff. I mean, there's cliches, there's stuff that gets repeated, but there's a certain soul and just feeling behind it that makes those things endearing, whereas in other situations, that stuff might be bothersome and come across as just not great. But that's not the case here. And having Chris Metzen leave, it's going to be interesting to see where it goes from here. it's going to be different, and it's going to have to be different. They can't try to be Chris Metzen without him. They just can't. Obviously, he's still going to be around as the voice of Thrall, which makes me so happy. And I'm hoping he'll still write stuff every now and then. Short stories, I don't know. I'm hoping maybe he'll show up on some podcasts or something. For a while, I expect for him to enjoy his peace and quiet. He deserves that. He deserves to just kind of disappear if he wants to. But I'm really hoping that we see him around, that we hear from him, that maybe he presents at a BlizzCon or just shows up for fun or does interviews about what it was like behind the scenes. I really hope that we continue to hear from him, because people like him are rare. He's incredibly creative and passionate about what he does and loves what he does. You can just see it in everything. Everything he touches, whenever he talks about it, it's amazing. I really don't think Chris Metzen listens to this show. I'm sure he listens to some shows out there, but thank you. Thank you so much for these amazing stories and characters you've given us that have affected all of us. They've been a part of our lives. And, I don't know, these characters have probably been role models to people. They've influenced people. It's amazing. Thank you so much for everything you've done. Enjoy retirement. You deserve it. You absolutely do. Thank you.
So I guess that's probably a perfect time to end this little tribute. But before we go, I think we've actually got just a second to pop in and see how Big Voodoo's doing. Big Voodoo, you feeling all right? I guess we'll leave him there then. But guys, girls, listen, I want to say, firstly, thank you for joining us for this show. I know there's a lot of activity across the community in relation to this, and plus, tearing yourself away from Legion at this time. We really appreciate you supporting us up to 90. I don't want us to forget that we made it to 90 episodes, even though this one's pretty short by comparison. But we will be back this time next week. But I want to say just before we close, and I know a lot of podcasters. I'm not going to re-edit this. I'm going to do it live. I know a lot of podcasters have used this phrase, but I want to say it all the same. Chris, if you are listening, or if anyone from Blizz is listening, who could pass the message on, thank you for what you've done for the community. And I don't want that to hang as like an empty phrase. I think hopefully this episode has shown that certainly for us, and I speak for everyone at Epic Geeks, certainly, when we say that, that your passion and your drive and just your talent, I think, for doing what you do and bringing the best out of people, and that comes out in the comments after your post, that has, I think, inspired us on, not only what we can do and what a great community this is, but I think that in a funny way, geeks can be incredibly cool, and I'm grateful that that's not something that only Big Bang Theory was trying to do. So I don't know if it did necessarily, but still, the point being, thank you, and until next week, guys, stay safe, stay gaming, and we'll see you soon. Take care.